Howdy, folks. Got LDG, Yvette, and Grandpa Geek so far. How you guys doing this morning?
Ooh.
What?
What?
Are we live?
Yes.
We're live.
Were
I
you
said
not
I
paying,
was live.
were you guys not paying attention?
I was.
Oh shit! Now I got an echo. I keep forgetting about that.
I didn't this time.
Damn it!
I just left the backstage. It's easier. I only have one StreamYard.
No, it's not the
per
backstage.
time.
And I do apologize for not going off. We're starting at 8 o'clock my time. But me and Mrs. Vile went to go see Thor: Love and Thunder last night, and we gave her niece a ride home from prom, and didn't get home until almost 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
Did you enjoy the movie, or you
All right,
didn't?
much better.
I definitely enjoyed it. She enjoyed it. She said it was better than Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness.
well, that's not difficult.
WandaVision 2. Yeah.
You know what? You know what? This is going to be a rarity. I am going to agree with LGG on that comment he just made. But,
WandaVision 2?
Yeah, basically that. Yeah, I thought that's what it was, but I've already discussed that one to death. I'm not going to go. We were going to go see Thor: Love and Thunder. I was unable to go when my wife and daughter saw it. They liked it. My wife, she was kind of like, it was okay. My son and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't that impressed with the trailer. And I was kind of like, I'll wait till it comes out on Disney Plus. If my son, we were going to go see it. I was going to go take my son the next day because he was not feeling well that day. That's why I didn't go. And he just looked at me and he said, my wife said, he said he's not interested. And I go look at AJ. I talked to my son. I'm like, do you still want to see the movie? He goes, no, I'm not really interested. I said, well, thank God, because I really wasn't that interested to go see it in the theater anyway. It's 30 minutes to my nearest theater. So that's right now 4 gallons of gas round trip. 4 gallons. Plus I got to pay for the goddamn thing. Plus concessions. So spending that kind of money for a movie I'm not overly interested in. No, I'd rather have been able to take my daughter and her friend to go see Black Phone because they came back and they loved it. The only reason I was uncomfortable about going to see that movie was I'd be taking an 11-year-old and a 16-year-old to a 7:30 movie of a psychological thriller. And I don't think that looks good optics sometimes.
Yeah, because of the horror elements is the reason we didn't go see it, because Mrs. Vile is not a fan of horror films.
That's understandable. I actually was surprised. I was told that there was like 4 jump scares. I said, did they actually scare you? They go, my wife was even like, oh, hell yes. I said, well, then they did the jump scares right. Because you shouldn't be expecting a jump scare.
So just black? Okay.
I have a little bit of sweetener.
Okay. Sorry, Mrs. Vile was being incredibly sweet and brought me a cup of coffee.
Oh.
Oh,
And a cookie.
Hey, Mrs. Vile.
Oh, she's already going back to the kitchen.
so today, before I took a shower, I trimmed my beard up, got it shorter because it was getting a little bushy.
Yep.
My wife actually said she was like watching me do it while we were talking. And we were talking about the video I uploaded that I wanted her to watch because I uploaded like a 7-minute rant about, well, a lot of people.
Oh, there she is. She's in the chat too.
Hello, Mrs. Vile.
Hi, Mrs. Vile.
Yeah, Mrs. Vile helped me shave my head yesterday. So
Now remember, for a little bit of time I did go bald. The only reason I stopped doing it mainly was because all the time shaving in the military, I was just kind of like doing it once a week, and I'm like, man, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh, there you are. I wonder where you were.
I was having a hard time with my getting the new James Webb Deep Field my backdrop.
Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite pictures.
Hey, Elihu, if you can remember to DM me later, there's a link of a YouTube video I think you would like. It has to do with a scientist talking about the physics of an episode of The Expanse. Oh, looks nice. Looks good on you.
And yes, even though I'm at the house, I am streaming from the
Mm-hmm.
car because it's just easier to do that so I can chain smoke.
The glare! The glare!
But yeah, she really goes into it, and it was I thought it was really cool.
Are you talking about Dr. Becky?
Yes, I am. That is
Yeah.
exactly.
Elihu, since you have the image up, what is the galactic cluster that's in the middle that we can't see?
This is not the full image. What are you talking about? This is just a part of the image.
Yeah, but notice how a large percentage of the galaxies are blurred in a circle towards the middle?
You mean like the this galaxy right here, the pizza?
Yeah. It's because the light is being bent by a supercluster. And I was wondering, I didn't know the name of the supercluster that's in it. I know it's not the local cluster, so I thought you'd know which cluster is in the middle of the photo.
Oh shit! I posted an image of where the pictures were taken. Fuck. I forgot the name of it. I'm sorry.
Is that like just the middle of the picture, a corner of it, or what?
Yeah, this is the top. Okay, say my whole square is the image, right?
Yeah.
It's this much and above. So
it's
just
just half of it.
Yeah.
It's the top, right?
But in the middle of that, in the middle of the one that he's in, there's supposed to be a supercluster that we just can't see, and that's what's causing some of the galaxies to spiral around in the middle.
Makes sense.
The thing is, only about 3 or 4 of those dots are stars. The rest are galaxies.
Oh, hey, Elihu, you'd be proud of me. I actually learned what the hell humidity is.
Did you go to Louisiana?
No, I looked it up. I educated myself.
If you want to experience what humidity is, go to Louisiana in early September, late August, with one T-shirt out, walk 1 block, and you realize how wet you are.
So, Elihu, you probably would know this. They said this video, there is a place in Mexico where if you go into these caves, the humidity is so bad you have to wear special equipment or you would literally drown from breathing.
I've heard of caves like that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was possible.
Well, you could. There are gases in some caves that can kill you.
Well, I know that gases in caves, but dying because the humidity is going to drown you.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Mrs. Mike.
Nausea caves.
Oh, there you go. I think the worst place I've experienced it. Now, bear in mind, I spent 3 months in Egypt, but that's dry heat. So, although it's very, very hot, it was very cold at night because that's what deserts do. But when I was in Mombasa in Kenya, Mombasa specifically, not Nairobi, not lower down, but Mombasa itself, the humidity was 100%. And my sister got married in a tree house in Mombasa. So I'm up a tree house. I take a shower. I dry off. I come out, order a lovely bottle of E-number parameters, like they used to taste. Put it down. Bush baby nicked it. Stood up, growled, looked down. I was soaking wet from the humidity. Okay. I had to take another shower.
I'm not 100% sure based on this article, but it may be Laniakia supercluster.
I'd have to look it up, Mike.
Yeah, I gotta look it up myself. I've got the name of it.
Yeah.
I was looking up James Webb picture and supercluster, and there's a thing on Yahoo. But I also know Yahoo sucks with their news.
You might be better off looking at the Hubble website because Hubble
The James website. The James
Yeah.
Webb's
or the
website.
James
Yeah.
website. But Hubble took the initial picture of the known universe, the first one. Is that the new one or is that the Hubble
Yeah.
one?
This is behind me is a new one.
The new
Basically,
one, right.
compared to the Hubble versus this one, Hubble is looking at 140p. This is 1720p.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the clarification.
Yeah.
If you hold your arm out with a grain of rice, half of that grain of rice is the image.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. What?
Hey, Val, check down below.
What? Did he freeze?
Who?
No, you got somebody coming, Val.
Oh, I went onto the wrong thing. That's why. Sorry, I was looking on the wrong webpage, Darren.
Well, that's fine. I know Chris the Piss is wanting to come too.
Okay. Well, we'll drop
What?
LDG only because he's not talking as much.
And he's
Yeah,
supposed to do his
yeah.
own live stream anyways.
Yeah.
I'll put you in the back.
Get rid of the dead weight. There you go. Yeah.
How you doing, Chris?
I'm here.
Poor LDG.
Hey, he had his own stream started at 9 o'clock, so why is he over here if he has his own stream going?
He was advertising this one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, Chrissy.
You know, the
Hello.
Elihu's background reminds me of this solid surface countertop that I saw at a dentist office.
I saw that meme too.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one with a kitchen marble top.
Disco
got
is back,
marble.
apparently.
I got black marble in my kitchen, and the way it had been taken, and the little arrow say, "You are here."
Mhm. So what topic are we here to piss people off with today?
Don't have one. What?
Oh,
Oh, you don't?
We've already talked about the fact that we saw, or me and Mrs. Vile saw Thor: Love and Thunder last night.
And
Just
Do you
Vile
need
and
to use that without spoiling anything?
yeah, but
Is,
what did you think?
I will say one thing about it, and I haven't seen the movie, but I have seen the mid-credit scene. And this isn't really a spoiler because it's everywhere, but the introduction of the MCU version of Hercules is kind of a big deal for comic book fans.
Yeah, they finally got the name.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
nerded out and I was telling Mrs. Vile all about it.
yeah.
How he was an Avenger and
Mhm.
he was basically
So,
a Thor replacement for a while, but
He was,
became his own character after time.
Yeah, Walt Simonson was taking over the Thor title, and he said, "I kind of need him all to myself. I can't be coordinating with the other Avengers, writing team. To coordinate, his appearances in that comic. I just have it myself." And I said, "Sure." And they had already written several scripts for several, Avengers issues, and they just put Hercules in there instead because they needed somebody who was, a mythological figure who and they could use some of the same jokes where he didn't get certain references and things like that.
Yep.
Made certain jokes. But what's interesting about Marvel's Hercules is that he's modeled almost exclusively, and at least initially, after the the hell is his name now? The actor who played him in all those Sword Sandal movies.
Lou Ferrigno?
No, not Lou Ferrigno.
No.
I'm talking about this is in the 50s and 60s. His name was Reeves, Steve Reeves. And they even when they introduced him in the Thor comics, he was a splitting image. In fact, I got an image of that comic right here.
Well, that was by design, though. They did that because,
Right.
I mean, just
yes,
if you
exactly.
watch it today, all the MCU characters that are currently in the MCU are modeled on the MCU characters. But that's been like that for years.
Right, but that's getting into something else though that I wanted to also talk about here. So
go
this,
ahead.
I'm sharing an image here
Wow.
of Thor's. Can you do that from his phone? There we go.
Yep.
So this is a spitting image
I'm actually on a new laptop.
Okay, this is a spitting image of the Steve Reeves Hercules, except of course they bulked him up a little bit more, and that's how he originally looked. Now what we've got now is a character that looks more like he's a cast member from 300, because that's the current look. But you know, the thing about Hercules was that he's one of the reasons why Marvel went with Thor initially in the early 60s was it would have been, instead of Hercules, is because Hercules was everywhere. You know, sword and sandal movies were everywhere, and when you think of mythological heroes, in you know the movies that Steve Reeves did were in everybody's, you know, top of everybody's mind. But the reason why they went with Thor was because nobody was making any movies about Thor, and you know, and Stan, you know, thought he could make a better superhero out of Thor than Hercules. But they brought in Hercules as a major challenge to Thor, and he's one of his chief rivals in the MCU, has been since the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And the gist of it is that Hercules is about as strong as Thor is, and he's gone toe to toe with the Thor with Thor and the Hulk, not together, but you know, separately. And but one of the more interesting things
I'm sure he's actually beaten Thor on occasion.
They were
I
enemies in the comics.
I don't know. I think, see, what they like to do, what Marvel always did was that it's like when Thor fought the Hulk, something would always interrupt the fight before a clear, decisive winner could really be established. And they kind of did a similar thing with Hercules, but what I was getting at was the interesting thing is that in the MCU, the Olympian gods are true immortals. They cannot be killed. Whereas the Asgardians are immortal in the sense that they're extremely long-lived, but they do eventually grow old and die, or they can be killed. You know. So what's funny is the Olympian gods kind of looked at the Asgardian gods the same way that the French look at the French Canadians. You know, you're not really French, kind of a deal. And you know, like almost like a backwater kind of, you know, example of, you know, lower G gods. And so I always found that an interesting little thing, that the Asgardians are so hoity-toity, but then they have this other attitude. Yeah.
I have one thing to say about this whole thing, and that's only because I'm huge into Greek mythology. Hercules is not the Greek name. That would be Heracles. Hercules is the Roman name. It's one of the only names that they'll put all the Greek gods' names in there, but they will not use Heracles. They will only use Hercules. And Hercules is the Roman version.
In the MCU, the Olympians use whatever names they want.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's Zeus, but then he calls his son Hercules. It should be, if his son is Hercules, then he should be Jupiter, or Heracles. But they go with whatever name they like, you know.
Yes, so they bounce forth between different god names. I mean, they'll confuse. Right. I mean, they've actually had both Kronos and Uranus at the same time.
Yeah, they mix and match. So, yeah, and
no, Uranus I think is a completely different. If I'm not mistaken, it was Gaia and okay. I'm gonna try and test my history because it's been a while. I believe it was Gaia and Uranus, and they're the ones who created the Titans, which would be Kronos, Rhea, and the Titans and the monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And the Titans are who created the gods.
And number one, I see you in the back on the backstage right now, but I can only bring up 6.
Mike,
hold on.
I'm not going to get.
Bet you stay.
No,
because I gotta probably go here soon.
Is there a wrap up today?
Yeah, but
yes,
you gotta remember
wrap up
also.
today.
I thought we were talking about what we were doing with Jet Nerdy, but
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's
I have
We can
no
definitely
input
talk
in
about that in a
the
little bit.
MCU.
Yeah.
I have
So-
zero input, so I'm going to drop out and number one
Okay.
can come in. And
Okay.
I'll be listening. All
Okay.
right.
We'll see you in the
One
chat
of the-
then.
See you soon.
One of the things you have to keep in mind with the MCU, though, is they have their own take on the mythology. So,
Oh,
so
I know. That was
yeah.
no, that was just me talking. It's
Yeah,
it's
right.
always kind of that way, and
Yeah.
that's
And yes,
fine.
I
don't
was
really
wrong.
care.
Kronos' equivalent is Saturn.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I gotta.
Like, for example, Sif in most North myths has gold hair, but in the MCU she has jet black hair. Or actually the Marvel Comics universe, not the.
And
not
doesn't
the
she marry
cinematic.
Thor eventually in the myths? At least
In
the
mythology?
Pro Jedi?
Yeah, in mythology that's what's supposed to happen. Yeah, and so I mean they play fast and loose. I mean the Eternals are in fact not gods, but they were mistaken for being the Olympian, mostly the Olympian gods. So I was kind of surprised because I thought, okay, they did the Eternals movie. Okay, that's going to be their explanation for the other pantheons. But then they come out with Russell Crowe here as the actual Zeus, and I thought, well, that's interesting. So then maybe they're not even going to bring back the Eternals at all. I would kind of be surprised if they did at this point, given how poorly that movie did. But
they'll be back.
Yeah,
Disney never admits failure.
Yeah, the explanation could easily be that during the past time, they actually interacted with the so-called capital G and little g gods in the past.
Well, that's the whole premise of the Eternals. They were mistaken for the Greco-Roman deity. But since the MCU introduced the Eternals first before they introduced the Olympians, it's kind of an interesting thing because it was the opposite in the comics.
We might actually see it like a battle between Athena and Athena.
Right.
Or Athena was Zeus' favorite Athena and treated her as a daughter, and everybody thought that, hey, this was the story of Athena, and they came to Athena.
So what I was actually correct on this. Gaia is originally born out of chaos. Gaia birthed by herself Uranus. Or Uranus, whichever fucking term you want to use. I don't care. They both sound silly in English.
It got changed to your rectum.
Well, you know what? They changed Pluto's not a planet, but you know what? I don't have to do what other people say.
Yeah, Mercury's not a planet either.
But yeah, I did remember that part. I was kind of certain I was correct, but it's been a while since I've researched my history like that.
Yeah.
See, I wouldn't mind readmitting Pluto as a planet because then we'd have our first technically double planet. Because it rotates around the barycenter that is outside of Pluto's mass. Therefore, it's a double planet, not just a planet.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar. Look, astrology is not my area.
Or even astronomy.
Astronomy.
You could say the same
Proves
thing.
my point. Hey, that proves my point right there. I don't know the difference.
Astrology is saying is the claimless basis that a plasma ball billions of miles away has an impact upon your life. That's what astrology is.
That's
Astronomy
the whole,
is studying that plasma
Aquarius,
ball.
Taurus, Scorpio, that kind of bullshit is from.
Yeah. Astronomy is studying that ball of plasma billions of miles away.
Well, sorry, my focus is on history and mythology.
Sorry, both me and Elihu are get angry at that kind of stuff.
Okay, then when does religion become mythology?
Depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
Really gonna go there? All right.
I'll go there. I got no problem going there. I got no problem going there as long as we keep it civil. But once we start getting hostile, that's one of the reasons I put up my.
If you start calling astrology a science, I will definitely be hostile to you, NB.
Hey, like all you got to do is Elihu. All you got to do is just correct me. I said I don't know shit about that stuff. That just proves I don't. I don't mind being corrected.
Well, the thing is, Earth is really the best double planet around, considering the size of the moon.
Yeah,
in
but the
relationship
barycenter
to-
of the two, basically the point where they revolve around each other is inside Earth's mass. Therefore, it's not a double planet. When it comes to Pluto and Charon, the barycenter is actually outside of Pluto's mass. That would make it a double planet.
Originally named Charon, spelled the
I
same way.
Oh, I thought you said devil planet, not double planet.
Double.
Okay, the
Yeah.
thing is,
I only recently found out because I heard this term and I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what a Goldilocks system was.
Yeah, the Goldilocks zone is
Didn't?
it's based on the Goldilocks tail of three bears. The planet can be inside the Goldilocks zone, but it does not mean it's habitable because there are currently 3 planets in our solar system's habitable Goldilocks zone: Venus, Earth, and Mars. If any alien civilization looks out and goes, "Hey, there's 3 planets in the habitable zone," well, not guaranteed that every single one in our life.
And let's be honest, they see us as like, oh, there's intelligent life down there. And okay, we made a mistake on the intelligent part.
Hell, James Webb just discovered water vapor in the atmosphere of an exoplanet. Water
What's an
vapor. Water vapor. That's the same thing that any alien detected on Earth.
I don't know what an exoplanet is.
A planet outside of our solar system.
Thank you.
Oh. See, you guys will go to ask about this stuff. Okay, I'm the more mythology, history, religion guy.
Stop using Wikipedia, Mike.
Yeah, that might help. If you're when we're talking about the barycenter.
well, the only problem is that eventually Charon is going to slam into Pluto, I should say.
No,
Okay, I have a
it's simply
question
law.
for you guys. Do we move further away from the sun as time goes on?
Yeah, but it's like 3 centimeters a year. But there's also, based on because the orbit isn't perfectly circular, the orbit actually shifts more than 1 million miles. I think, isn't it a million miles? Or is it less than that? I can't remember.
It's less than that, and basically the way the planets orbit the sun with the gravitational pull, everything gets rearranged again. The exact same orbits, nothing's actually disturbed. It's a slow. It's like a 0.000001. Man, that was 9 zeros
Shut
out of
up,
1
Gizmo!
magnitude earthquake. That's what it feels like. Okay, that's its equivalent of it. It's like 0.09 of the zeros and a 1. But the moon is moving away from us 1.5 inches a year.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, but again, it's
far
only
would it-
like
how-
what? Again, it's less. It's like an inch every year or so. That's it.
Inch and a half.
How far would the moon have to be from the Earth, pushed away from the Earth, to affect how the tides and whatever the moon does when it does its thing?
About 2 million miles.
Yeah, it'll
yeah.
affect us for a long time, and before it'll keep affecting us until after the sun explodes. Basically,
Oh, okay.
it's not going
That
to just
long
fling
enough.
off one day.
But it'll be slowly moving away from us. But when the sun actually expands, no model has actually concluded that the sun will go to the Earth, Venus will crash into Mars, Earth will get pushed away. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. But Venus is going to be destroyed, and so is Mercury.
Yeah, well, they're hotheads.
So,
anyway.
so
And
why
Venus,
is everybody geeking out so much with Miss Marvel saying she's a mutant and the X-Men theme being played at the end of it?
Dude, I was actually making a sandwich when I was watching that. I was listening, right? Kind of looking on my shoulder. When he said mutation, I heard the theme song. I'm like, what the fuck did I just hear? I didn't even whine. I'm like, yep, that's the X-Men theme song. And it's even in the credits. X-Men 97 theme song.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Well, at
what
least
the hell?
At least they use the right theme song.
Yeah.
Now, I did not watch the show, and here's why. I don't know much about Miss Marvel, and honestly, it's not really a show for me. It's, young girl in high school. And the reason why I can't watch shows like that is because, simply put, I can't relate to teenagers or young adults in the current environment they live in. I just can't. I didn't grow up that way. Stranger Things,
Well-
I can, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s in school. So it's not for me, and that's fine. I don't care.
The only reason I've only seen like the first 2, maybe 3 episodes of Miss Marvel, and I will say the cinematography is fantastic in that show,
Wait till you get to
considering what they
Karachi.
did.
Wait till you get to Karachi.
But the only reason I can somewhat relate is because I have teenage daughters.
Well, I do have teenage daughter. Well, I do. I have one teenage daughter and one that's 11. She would probably relate to the show.
I've got an 18-year-old and 2 12-year-olds. So
yeah, okay. So I got a 21-year-old and an 11-year-old. So yeah, I know what you're saying. I got a. Oh, by the way, my son, all of a sudden earlier, literally did what game people do when you fight something really hard and you finally win. He was just like, yes! And I was like, oh my God, my son just must have won a victory. He came in here, he's got this grin on his face, and he looks at me and goes, Dad, I just beat Horizon the Far West on the ultra hard mode. I had to give him a high five because, damn it, I can't even have the balls to go that high on games. No, I'm sorry. It was apparently a new game plus when it came out, when it was downloaded, and he had the option either keep all his equipment or he had to start the game without his equipment on ultra hard. He chose to keep his equipment. I said, I don't blame you. I would have too. It's like, if you're going to go that hard, why handicap yourself anymore?
Exactly.
So yeah, he's like super. He was super excited. I'm thinking, you beat a game on ultra hard. I got a feeling I know what my son's going to be doing when he grows up.
Developing video games?
I don't know if he'd be a developer. I think he'd be more of a tester.
Well,
or something in that area.
Warn him if he wants to become a tester that once you learn how to test video games, you will never, ever play them the same way. I was an alpha tester for Sony 989 Studios and a couple other game testers back in the 90s or late 90s, early 2000s. And to this day, every time I play a game, I'm like, oh, that's a bug. Oh, that's a bug. That's a bug. That's a bug. Why did they fix
Oh,
that?
yeah,
That's
but-
just an error. They could easily fix that. I mean,
Okay, for just real quick, Mike. I know what you just said, but explain the difference between an alpha tester and a beta tester.
alpha testers are people who also know the coding of the game, so that when we discover a bug, we can actually tell the programmers what they need to change in order to do that. Plus, we're also to make the changes. Plus, we're the ones who also do testing before the game is released, even in a
alpha testers are always in charge, and like the beta testers let other people sleep with their wives. That's the difference.
Exactly, that's right. He's got it.
But yeah,
that was a joke. Not a good one, but it
yeah.
was a joke.
I thought it was pretty good.
It wasn't a good one.
But I was actually worked for a company called what was it? CDI Innovations or something like that. And we were contracted out to various companies to do alpha testing.
Oh, I hate lock picking.
What?
I'm looking at Darian here. I'm like, God, I hate when the lock picking thing comes
Looking at
up.
who?
Oh,
Darian playing his game here. Darren's
what game are you playing?
Fallout 4.
Oh yeah, that was
okay. I screwed up again.
When I got the new computer, I had to install a certain number of games, including Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4.
Right.
But of course, Fallout 3 and 4 won't play on the new computer until I make some changes. But Fallout New Vegas is working just fine.
Yeah. I'm curious. I don't mean to change any subjects here, but I am curious about Fallout 76. I just want to look at the map, but I've heard so many obviously terrible things about the game that I just don't want to.
Yeah, it's definitely very buggy from what I've seen, but
Still.
I will say that from what I've seen, and I haven't played it yet, but there's a YouTuber by the name of Oxhorn that I watch his stuff.
Yeah.
The storyline aspects are very well written. It was just the gameplay was not executed well.
Yeah, initially they didn't have any stories. The idea was it was pure sandbox, and that was part of the problem, I think, because people were willing to tolerate Bethesda's game, bugs all the time because the story content was good. But when you release a game that had no story content, the bugs became a first order force, and people started noticing them a lot more, because there was nothing else the game had to offer.
I haven't
All right.
played any Fallout games, so I have
Hey
no
guys,
idea
I'm
what
gonna
you're talking
drop out. I gotta get some stuff done. I gotta run, do some errands
All right,
and stuff.
if you want to post the link, Chris, go ahead.
For today's show,
Yeah, are you modded on my channel?
I don't know, but here I'll just put it in the private, and you can throw it up if you would, please. I appreciate it. Where is it? There we go.
4 a.m. local Vietnam time.
Yeah, 4 a.m. local Vietnam time. It's actually at 5 p.m. Eastern, so if you guys want to check it out, come on. We play Jackbox games and other stuff and have a really good time. We're totally filthy and
and I can't
horribly
believe I lost
disgusting.
last time.
Well, I hate that. I hate it when that happens. But everybody come on by, check it out. Like I said, we have fun. We start out with what's the dub, which is basically Mystery Science Theater 3000. You add your own quips into B movies that they show clips of, and then we go.
I remember those days. Kind of.
Hey, Vincent Price and Day of the Dead is not a B movie. Come on.
Well, it is, but it isn't. It was a good B movie. But anyways, we do those. We do Jackbox games. It's a lot of fun. So I'd like to see all you guys there. So have a good day, guys. I'll see you later. Probably talk next week.
All right, later, man.
Later, Chris.
I'll be here for maybe 10 more minutes.
LDG, if you're still around, you're not in the back room. If you want to come back up, you can. Or Yvette or Dandelion.
I'm just trying to let a ball. Are we going to talk about Jeff Nerdy now?
Well, I can bring up. Let me bring up a thing so I can actually write stuff down while I'm here.
I'm gonna be here for about 10 more minutes. I gotta rewatch Equilibrium, take some notes because I'm gonna be on Orange Hat Review. We're gonna review the movie. I think it is actually a very wonderful gem of a movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I would actually say one of my thought Christian Bale's better underrated movies. I love American Psycho. Yeah, I'm on a stream, honey, but I'll be here for about 10 minutes. What's up?
It had a lot of 1984 inspiration in it, but not a copy, of that story at all.
Dude, San Francisco went back in time. It's going to be 1984 again if supervisors pass that bill.
What are you talking about?
Police can monitor live doorbell footage and security cameras of people's private homes.
Groovy.
Yeah, they've already been able to do that because of the agreement that they had with the doorbell company. So what's
the agreement in San Francisco is the homeowner has to ask them. They have to ask the homeowner for video footage if they don't automatically release it. Otherwise, Now it's the cops
in
actually
Los Angeles. It's been the default for the last, I don't know, ever since they came out with them.
Yeah, here if it passes, they can monitor live doorbell ring footage of people's private homes, which means if people hang out in the front yard and the doorbell camera sees them, the cops are basically watching these people.
Yep.
People hang out in the front yard sometimes when it's hot with the neighbors. Yeah, cops are spying on you. Big Brother's watching.
Yeah, again, similar things having to do with the Fifth Amendment still apply, meaning that even if you commit a crime and they see it, they can't do anything with you if the warrant does not allow it. Isn't supposed to be, or if they don't have a warrant for the footage for that crime.
Yeah, that's gonna stop your load. That's gonna stop California. Yeah, sure. Give me a break.
Well, considering I don't want to go into politics too much right now, but considering we just had a huge drop in rights regarding the Fifth Amendment in the last few months. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was
which one?
federal level.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Never mind. I'm not getting into this anymore.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to get into it too much right now. I already did a full live stream about it.
Well, I've already given my perspective, so and it's not like any of us are going to change each other's minds if we don't agree.
Yeah, this is
Which
my
we,
perspective.
which we all know several of us don't.
This is my perspective of the whole situation, Mike. What my shirt says.
I can't read.
I can't read it right now. Just say it out loud, Elihu. I can't read it.
Oh, control the guns, not women's bodies.
Oh. Okay. I'm not saying I disagree with it in principle, but remember, I'm one of those weirdos, Elihu. I'm actually a gun owner, too.
I know.
You don't own any guns.
What are you talking about? I own over 20.
None of your guns work. You said that last time I was on here.
No,
if they don't work, you don't own guns.
I have a
so
shot, right now, Jared, I still have my shotgun that it still works.
Okay, so you own a gun, but you can't claim that you own 20 guns when 19 of them got their barrels full and are modified so they don't fire.
So a gun museum is not a gun museum. So a gun museum is not a gun museum because they have guns that don't
a couple
fire?
of them have been welded so they can't.
Wow.
The firing pin can't be returned.
That's not a gun museum. So they're not really. It's not really a gun museum if the guns.
Okay.
An argument.
I'm gonna fix this real quick. He says he has 20. He has one functional. He has one serviceable and 19 non-serviceable. There you go.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right. An argument could be made that if the gun does not fire, it's not a gun. So, I mean, it's disingenuous to say you have 20 guns unless you say you have 20 non-working guns or 19 non-working guns.
I would agree with you, Darren, with the, under the principle as it is not able to be used under its current state. But let's put it this way: if a car has a flat tire, is it still a car?
Hey, I'm gonna say this.
Tire is one thing. You've removed the motor and the engine from yours. I mean, it's you know.
Hey, if you don't have the ammo for the tank, is it still a tank?
Well, that's ammo. I mean, he's actually modified the device so that it doesn't do what it's designed otherwise to do.
Yeah, but most people can't.
Yeah, but you have to understand, Darren, some of these guns are. The only reason I own them is because they were grandfathered in. They were made illegal, even in Texas.
Right.
So yeah, if Texas is saying that, yeah, you can't own this gun, then you know.
Yeah, something's wrong with that.
Like, if they say it's not, you might. It's like, wait a minute.
I don't know. Texas is pretty getting pretty lefty now.
No, they're not.
Well, these were made illegal back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
I thought we weren't talking politics.
Well, we're talking about guns technically, and that's a little bit different. And so, it's actually because of the federal rules regarding some of these guns, I can't legally sell them. I can't even sell them for parts. The only thing I can do with them is take them to a firing range to shoot, or put them on the wall, or put them in storage or something. Because otherwise, any other way is illegal to have these guns. Some of them, not all of them.
But you're not Rambo. That's what I'm trying to get at here. You're not some. You're not Burt Gummer from Tremors, okay? You know, and that's something.
Well, in the sense that I am all about gun safety, I am very much Burt Gummer.
Oh yes, but that wasn't his defining characteristic, was it?
Mike, you broke one of the key cardinal rules.
What?
You told everyone how many guns you have and told them how many don't work.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Yeah, but nobody knows where those guns that don't work are and which one is which.
Well, the one I have, closest to the house is the one that works, because that's what I want. That's the one I use for self-defense.
Look, I have guns, but I'm not going to tell you how many I have. I'm not even going to tell you what caliber they are.
Yeah, down on the left, you will get shot if you have if you're waving a non-firing gun like a BB gun or a cap gun. You will get shot, especially if you're a kid.
Danny Lyon, people have been shot in this country for wielding a prescription pill bottle. So yeah.
Remember, there was a news story. There was a news story a few years ago. A cop that maybe it was just 2 years ago, who had to shoot a homeless man because he was holding up a piece of plumbing like it was a gun, just to get people to to get reactions out of people, and it looked enough like a gun to fool them, and he ended up getting shot, even though he didn't have a functioning weapon in his hand. I mean, those kind of things stories are sad, but then again, you got to wonder what was he doing with it.
I'm going to put it this way: I was never trained in police first responders. I have no clue how they, their response, their training is complete. People want to compare what cops do to what the military does. And one of the reasons a lot of military folks do not work out as cops is because the environment is completely different. The training is different. And some of that training that those cops have is this is why I couldn't be a cop. I thought about it, but then I read through St. Louis PD and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not trained for this. I'm not trained to assess situations the way they are. I am trained to, I see the enemy with a weapon, I shoot them, I don't think anything else.
Right.
Well, the problem is in a lot of the police forces in this country, they don't get nearly the amount of training they should get.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the city and the state.
Yeah, and I would entirely blame at them for that, but there's, until that's fixed, we're going to have issues.
Yeah. I mean, there was a little bit of a controversy back in the 90s when I was in. Submarine sailors are trained to shoot through hostages to neutralize intruders. Not exactly something you want, and it doesn't speak to being a police officer at all. But,
on a sub, you definitely don't want a bullet ricocheting around or possibly penetrating the hull.
Right. Or on the pier either. That's where we generally have our weapons. I mean, yes, there is an armory for if people get on board, but while we're in port. But I mean, generally speaking, that's a sentry sort of situation. And again, I hope maybe this has changed. But yeah, the idea was that you neutralize the intruder. It doesn't matter what's in front of him. If he's holding somebody.
It's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
Yeah.
And you know what? It is actually, I don't normally, I'm always for the individual over the greater good, but there are exceptions and caveats. And when it's okay, we got 90 people on this sub, and if I don't shoot this guy, and possibly the person he's holding, they could put a bullet through here and kill everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, especially when you're talking about you're on a boat that has the possibility of having nuclear missiles on it. You do whatever the fuck you need to do to defend that boat.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even I would say at that point, if you got to kill a civilian, you kill a fucking civilian.
Okay, I'll give you an example. When I was in the Marine Corps, you learn real quick when you're on a ship, if they call general quarters and you start seeing sailors running, you better put your back and ass to the wall and get the hell out of the way, because they will knock your ass out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And they are allowed to do that.
What is week 1? Next week?
I don't know yet. Let me check the Twitter, see if anyone's how many people have actually responded to the Twitter.
Because next week is the 24th. I have my calendar up for you.
Helps if I actually spell Twitter correctly, because I keep spelling it wrong. Then I got yelled at by the Vile Child because I couldn't spell fucking TikTok correctly.
How do you spell TikTok? T-I-K-C-O-K?
I kept putting C's instead of K's.
Oh.
Okay. Hey, guys, it was great seeing y'all. You guys have a blast. I'm going to get out of here. I was checking. Equilibrium is on HBO Max. Thankfully, I don't have to go do any sailing to get it. So I got to go get this reviewed because we set this up a couple weeks ago, and I've had, unfortunately, this past week, I went 7 days, and this is the first. This was the first night I actually got a full restful night's sleep. I had to go to urgent care because I turned out I had a really massive infection, so I'm stuck on antibiotics. So, and antibiotics always do great. Always have great side effects for me. That's yeah.
Happy trails.
Oh my God! You should. I was like, they were like, "Do you want the shot too?" Oh, you mean the super shot, the one that's the higher concentrated one than the pills that you're going to give me later? Yeah, go ahead and give it to me and be done with it. You know,
All right.
I know I'm going to be miserable. I know it's going to suck, but it's like let's just get it over with.
Well, I just put in the chat the link to the Twitter poll about what day Jep Nerdy should be done on the new channel. So if you haven't already responded, and since there's only 3 votes, I'm guessing a lot of people haven't responded. So if you got a Twitter, go ahead and vote for what day you want it to be on.
I'm loading Twitter right now and waiting for the page to load. So
I got Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday, Friday or Saturday or Sunday. And right now, Friday or Saturday is winning. So that's why it just says weeks right now instead of actual dates, like when I usually do a calendar.
damn, still waiting for Twitter to load. There it is.
And as the only patron right now, Yvette, I think, should have the first dibs at choosing what week and what theme that one should be. So if she's still in the chat.
Voted. She can come back up. You only got 4 of us.
Yeah, if anyone else wants to come back up. I don't know what happened to number 1.
You gotta repost the tweet because you didn't pin it.
Well, in that case, I'll just do this for now. It might change. So we'll do Red Dwarf right there for now. It might change the week. I just wanted to put it somewhere. Any other suggestions?
Simpsons.
Babylon 5.
No Simpsons? You got a whole 30 seasons of that. Come on.
And some of these might change. As I said, we're just doing ideas for now.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever done a Simpsons, Jeff Nerdy.
I did a category once, and that was mostly for Bird. And I think I've only had like 2 or 3 Red Dwarf questions. And I think I've had multiple Babylon 5 ones.
Yeah, you have. Ooh, Hitchhikers. Books and movies, right? Books and movie? What the hell is your cat on the keyboard for, dude?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I'm not familiar with this one, Yvette. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, Me, brain farts. I have no idea.
I could do this one for LDG.
He's still talking about WandaVision. WandaVision lives rent free in his head.
I'm sorry, Yvette. I've never.
Oh,
heard
we are
of it.
doing Babylon 5. Nice.
Yeah, he's a Babylon 5 person now.
Me?
Not now.
I've always been a fan of
No.
Babylon 5.
No, not.
He's talking about me.
I'm talking about the Syrian Lex Luthor here.
Babylon 5. You know the first version of DS9?
Yeah,
Well,
that's all he's going to
technically,
say now from forever. Is he's going to
yeah,
bring
Deep
that up.
Space Nine come out first.
No.
Nope.
Well, the Babylon 5 was created first.
Yes, but didn't it air second?
It might have aired second, but I think it was the same year. So it's just a matter of when it was the same year, I believe.
All right. Babylon 5 was February 22nd, 1993. And Deep Space Nine was January 3rd, so it beat it by a little over a month, about a month and a half.
Yeah, which is like basically nothing.
Yeah.
But they built DS9 off the Encyclopedia of Babylon 5 treatment.
Either way, we got two good series out of that premise, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm not complaining. Just a little disappointed.
How about
Sliders?
I don't know much about Blake 7, so I'll put it here for now.
Sliders.
Okay, how about instead of Blake 7 and Space 1999, classic sci-fi movies and TV shows have board 150s, board 260s. Instead of Blake 7, Space 1999, just combine them all. Classic sci-fi TV shows / movies. You got a shitload of sci-fi 50s and shitload of 60s.
So
instead of Blake 7 in 1996.
The hell?
How about
50s and 60s?
I think I'd rather limit it to one decade.
Not two
I got
wars,
one. Here's what about deleted scenes? Can you do a whole one on deleted scenes from sci-fi or whatever?
Oh, I think Mike's answer would be pay for a Patreon and create your own board.
Yeah, that one might be a little harder to do because not everybody knows a lot of the deleted scenes, and sometimes deleted scenes get reintroduced in different cuts.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that would give you more questions. Yeah, but that gives you more questions to answer. But yeah, no, it was a thought.
It's a thought, and I like the idea behind it, doing other things than just franchises.
Yeah.
Yes, I will be buying a new chair. I've oiled this thing and it's still squeaking.
Shows that are rip-off of other shows.
Yeah, that's kind of
rip-off
subjective.
shows.
Yeah.
Well, not.
Yeah.
Part of it's subjective, but not all of it.
Yeah, like was the Addams
Like
Family
Babylon
a rip-off of the Munsters or vice versa? I don't know if anybody
Exactly.
really knows. You know, or
exactly.
I Jimmy G Bewitch.
In Bewitch, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or you know, Twilight Zone and Outer Limits and
Outer
One Step
Limits.
Beyond and you know all these other things. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
or Barney in Supernatural. Yep.
Barney.
Or
That's
That
for
was a
That was
trigger for Yvette.
that was for somebody.
Teletubbies. I'm sorry.
Teletubbies. Yeah. Okay.
Supernatural.
Yeah.
Well, I could do this one because it's recent, and for Yvette a little bit.
The boys. Yes, I'm down for the boys.
And comics. Ooh.
Well, I
Oh,
know
so
more
you-
about the comics than the show. That's why I would have to do the comics
Okay.
too.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, can you kill week 8, you son of a bitch?
No.
I just read that. I just saw
You
that.
just read it, even though I said I
Just
put
read
that in
that.
specifically for you.
Second asshole.
Okay, how about a suggestion for wording of
I might actually have to play that one. Damn it.
No, instead of just plain old WandaVision Doctor Strange, how about Wanda Maximoff / Scarlet Witch category? That'd include everything.
No,
Okay, I can
no,
do
then
that.
I won't play then.
Oh, fine.
It's either WandaVision or
We got
no.
we got to do
I-
it now.
I mean, I'm not against if you have a question that's related outside, but if you do a general
Yeah.
like full Wanda like comic and that,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not.
And
I'm
besides,
staying
I don't want to
quiet.
put you through that anyway because that would be a nightmare trying to come up with questions for like Wanda as a whole. It's all over the place.
Thank
You know, that'd be like me saying, "Okay, all things Hulk." You know, I wouldn't
exactly.
I wouldn't exactly. It wouldn't exactly be fair. There's not a lot of people who know as much about that character as I do, but you know, it's like
You got plenty just for WandaVision, and I mean, if you include WandaVision 2, that's fine. That's
Doctor
okay.
WandaVision too.
Dr. WandaVision 2.
Yeah, it was.
I told you it was just like professional wrestling. The TV shows are there to give backstory to the big screen releases, and that's exactly what WandaVision, among other things, turned out to be. Was that it was the origin of a supervillain.
But my issue with the Doctor Strange 2 was I don't think she was an effective villain.
She was scary. I thought she was, really menacing and
What I mean from the pathos established in WandaVision.
Well, I mean, in the movie itself, though, she was also quite, the last time we'd seen her really do anything in the movies was when she almost killed Thanos, and Thanos got desperate and had to do the rain fire thing. I mean, she was, she was really demonstrating a level of danger there, and yeah, and they made her look nice and evil and gross throughout the Doctor Strange movie. I thought that was appropriate. When she's chasing them through the hallways and things, I mean, the way she contorted her body, I thought that was weird. And yeah, and I was entertained with the movie. I like Sam Raimi though too.
With it. I'm not saying that.
I like Sam Raimi as well. So and I loved all the Sam Raimi isms that I was able to find in the movie. But I can understand why somebody else wouldn't. I mean, my brother kind of rolled his eyes a little bit when they showed America Chavez's two mothers, because he wasn't familiar at all with the backstory of the character, and I was kind of expecting it. So, but I actually thought the actress was really sweet, and she actually had an enduring quality. So, I mean, it didn't bother me at all.
I also agree with that sentiment as well. And it didn't have any effect on the storyline. It was just,
Yeah, before the movie came out, I remember people complaining on Twitter that she had a pride flag on her jacket. I was like, okay.
You could barely see it.
Yeah, I know. They were saying, oh, they made America Chavez gay. I'm like, no, look at the backstory. She's a teenage girl supporting her mother's. Hello.
Yeah, she wasn't originally homosexual, I don't believe, but then they made her that way later when another a Hispanic lesbian writer took over the character and decided she was going to write about herself more or less, and which is what a lot of female authors choose to do. And that's when things, that's when she got a lot more attention as a character, but also, you know, a lot of people will tell you that the character wasn't as interesting at that point because that's what the character became all about. You know?
Well, I just did a quick Google search, and apparently, the official Marvel stance is she's bi.
Well,
And I think I think that's probably the cop out from having someone write her as gay and someone write her as straight.
Right.
Like
I mean, that's
Loki's
what
androgynous.
DC did the same thing to Tim Drake Robin. He's now bi, but he'll never ever be seen dating a girl again. You know, that's you know, they just won't do that.
See, I don't care who a character dates as long as the story is good.
Right, but that's the point. See, when they make it right now, Marvel and DC, their one trick is to make an established character gay all of a sudden, and then it becomes all about that. You know, another example is also with Miss Marvel in the comics. You know, she mentions that she's a Muslim like every other page. It seems like she was created almost exclusively for representation.
You mean, Ms. Marvel, not Captain Marvel.
Ms. Marvel, excuse me, yeah, Ms. Marvel. Yeah,
because I was like, Carol Danvers isn't currently gay or Muslim.
The Kamala Khan. Well, I mean, Carl Manvers, as he's sometimes called by the comic book fans, will probably be revealed to be bi at some point. They've already kind of given her a butch haircut in the comics, and then they repeated that in the movie, and yeah, it was just, you know, there's all kinds of clues
She's got long hair again.
Yeah, they'll never make her look like sexy like they did in the 70s again.
No, the thing is, she's supposed to be dating War Machine guy. What's his name?
Rhodey.
Rhodey, yeah. Supposed to be dating Rhodey.
Yeah, eventually though, that if the trajectory is maintained, I mean that's where they're going to go, because she'll be described as being so much more worldly than everybody else because she's been to other planets and things that she'll have no problem, you know, dating, you know, a plant like Groot or you know, Mantis or something like that, you know. So I mean, that's,
in that case, if she's going to turn into Marvel's Captain Jack Harkness, I'm not going to have an issue with that. He's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And that guy will screw anything that walks, regardless of gender, shape, color.
That's one of the big criticisms of Marvel and DC right now from the Comicsgate community is that there's not even a pretense to entertainment anymore. But I don't need to go there, I guess. But yeah, it's like, okay, Hercules. We were talking about Hercules earlier. Okay, can you pretty much guess what Marvel has done with Hercules more recently?
Well, because if he's based on the ancient Greek version of the character, he could easily be bisexual.
Yes, which the character was not originally, but of course it's something that they just had to do.
Well, you know. Again, but if you're talking about that specific you know, because it is Hercules right. In the myths was blatantly bisexual.
Well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but I mean, you know, the Marvel version wasn't until it became Koch to suggest that it was. Version, I mean, you know, yeah. Marvel version, as I mentioned, was based off the one in the movies with Steve Reeves. He was not based off of actual mythology, you know, per se. It was kind of like authentic Italian food versus American Italian, you know, fast food. You know, it's like that's what he was. He was designed for widespread consumption.
You guys
do realize you're also talking about a character that's based on one from the 50s, or you know, based on a 50s stereotype.
Guys, you guys realize that
weren't nearly as progressive.
Yeah, the 50s and 60s when these comic books came out, being gay was considered a social pariah. So that was never discussed in comic books. They could never print that.
Right.
Nowadays, it's socially acceptable. So yeah, a character can become bi or gay. So,
but gay people could still enjoy the characters.
Yeah.
You know, and you know,
but
that's
the only thing I would say is there is something to be said about when one of the characters that you are reading about or seeing on TV is similar to you.
Yeah, look at Daredevil. When Stan Lee came out with Charlie Cox, Daredevil, he was scared that people who were disabled We would make fun of him. It's like, okay, I got
Well-
a blind superhero.
Well,
no,
yeah,
they embraced it.
he didn't have a problem. He didn't have a problem with the idea of blind people reading his comics, but the idea of having a handicap hero was an interesting choice, and having him be blind was probably the best choice. Precisely because the very people that he represented specifically with his handicap wouldn't ever be able to enjoy the comic anyway.
It was like, did you guys ever watch the Extreme Ghostbusters?
With Terry the gorilla, yeah.
Well,
you mean
the
original
one that had,
the original Ghostbusters?
no, not the original cartoon. That was the real Ghostbusters. The Extreme Ghostbusters was
No,
a revamp
no.
of the 90s.
No. The real
No.
Ghostbusters was the second Ghostbusters cartoon. The original one came out in the 70s, and it had a talking gorilla.
Yeah. I'm talking about the one based on the franchise, not the one based on.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But they had a character in there that was in a wheelchair.
Right.
And they could have done the 90s trope of, putting him in an exosuit so he could walk or something. But no, they implicitly wanted him to stay in the wheelchair.
Mhm.
And people who actually were paralyzed liked that character for that reason.
Right. Well, Professor X was created many years earlier by Marvel, and the leader of the X-Men, the one that they're named after, and he was in his wheelchair too. I mean, it wasn't even a powered wheelchair in the beginning; it was an ordinary hand-driven, wheelchair. And so I mean, that kind of stuff happened. I mean, people with eye patches, one-eyed characters.
But the number of times Charles Xavier has gone from crippled to walking to crippled to walking, crippled to walking is kind of a cliche at this point.
Since then, yeah, you're right. But yeah,
and I don't mean saying crippled as in a derogatory sense. It was just an easier way of saying the word.
Right.
Yeah, we know what you mean.
Yeah.
So we got 2 spots left? Week 1 and week 9.
Well, the positions might change. I just wanted to, put them in wherever I felt like it at the time.
We did mention The Boys. I do want to say I've actually enjoyed the TV show more than I ever enjoyed the comic.
I never read the comics.
The comic made me feel like I needed a shower after every issue, and at least this one, threw in enough laughs to, and some of it's pretty imaginative, but the one thing about it is we've gotten to the point now with superhero mass media that it's self-parodying now, which means that you're probably going to start seeing a winding down of overall superhero material in mass media. It's never going to completely go away, just like the Western never completely went away. But yeah.
But more like on a rotation, similar to slasher movies, how slasher movies seem to go through a resurgence every 5 years or so since the 1970s.
Yeah,
well, as long as you have a new gimmick, that's fine. I mean, a few years ago, zombie movies came back, and one of the reasons why was because one movie, 28 Days Later, had the brilliant idea of instead of making them these lumbering things that you could easily outrun, to make them blindingly fast, and that sort of became the new template for those kind of horror films. I mean, yeah, you're right. There's cycles, but and then sometimes Westerns go into cycles too. But whenever you start getting into a deconstruction period like what we had with Westerns, with the spaghetti Westerns and things, that kind of marked the decline of the Western, and The Boys, in my opinion, might signal the slow recession of that genre again.
It kind of fits when you're talking about The Boys, because The Boys was a deconstruction of comic book superhero genre,
right?
And now the TV show is a deconstruction of superhero TV shows and movies,
right? Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely works in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean I call it a bad show done very well, because it's obviously bad because of the subject matter, herogasm, people having sex with aquatic animals, things like that. But I mean, it's so well executed that it's not a huge issue for a lot of people. Yeah.
Still only 4 votes on the Twitter poll, so if you guys have your Twitter, go and vote.
I
No,
voted.
I suppose I should do that.
And I
Right
can't
now,
think of any more
Deadlock
topics.
between Friday or Saturday and Sunday.
And I can't think of any more topics. By Jeff Nerdy.
Orville.
Oh, I just did an Orville one right before my
Good.
computer crashed, so I don't want to do that one right away, even though the show
Okay.
just came out.
Okay. I thought
So
maybe
definitely
Orville.
Star Wars and Orville are off the table right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's
because I was thinking, I mean, 9 weeks out, it might be fresh again to talk about Orville New Horizons versus Strange New Worlds, because there's a lot of
that I can accept. I can do that one
yeah.
just for because I think I haven't seen it yet, but
Hmm.
hopefully by then I will.
He votes. He votes. Yvette can't vote on Twitter, but Sunday is her vote.
Well, in that case, hold on, Yvette, I have not voted on my main, so I will see if I can vote for you.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I got to switch my accounts though, and I don't know how to do that right now. I'll do it on my phone. I can't do it on the computer right now. It won't let me do it. It's weird how it's so much easier to switch your accounts when you're on your phone.
Almost like it was made for the phone.
Yeah.
It's easier to switch if I had multiple Twitter accounts on my computer than my phone. I heard a slight echo.
Yeah.
And you know what? Just because of me, and I like being an asshole, I'm going to do this too.
I have not read any of the Aura comics. I can't afford Dark Horse right now.
You're telling me that you don't have a way of gaining access to those, Elihu?
I've looked. Trust me, I've looked, and I have not seen any scanned images yet. Other comics, yes, but no Orville.
Yeah, the only reason I've been able to read some of the Firefly comics is because of that kind of stuff, and it's because they're not always carried by my local shop, so I can't even buy them if I wanted to.
Yeah, trust me, I've looked for scanned Orville comics, and I cannot find any yet. But I'm still looking, but when I can afford them, I will buy every single Orville comic.
Yeah, some of them, it's like, I think the first series is like season 1.5 as far as Seth MacFarlane's concerned.
Yeah.
And then the second set is season 2.5. But by 2.5, I think it actually takes place before the Kelly timeline stuff.
And there's also a audiobook book coming out. I think it already came out. It was an unnamed episode that they were unable to film. Yvette has a message for you, Mike.
Yeah, I'll email it to you, Yvette.
Oh, and Yvette, you don't have to worry about that picture of Jupiter. I've seen it. Yeah, you turn the picture upside down. It looks like it's a weird smile. Is that the picture you were talking about of Jupiter? Wait for her to type.
Another topic that is interesting is comparing the various cyborgs in science fiction, like the $6 Million Man all the way up through RoboCop and then whatever we got now.
Cyborgs and robots.
Yeah.
I definitely like that idea because
Yeah, that is a great one, dude.
I had an idea for when I go back and start doing the Vile reviews again, and I'll go ahead and say it now. I'm thinking about creating a race of characters called the Cyborgs, but they are anthropomorphic boars that are cybernetic.
That would work.
I like that, cyborgs and robots.
I mean, the $6 Million Man franchise, which I call it a franchise because it also included a spin-off series in The Bionic Woman, back in the 70s was like, I think, the premier sci-fi television show franchise. I mean, it was...
I think Cinnabon's trying to piss people off.
He went into space. He fought aliens and robot Bigfoots and Russian probes and all kinds of stuff. So I mean, it was pretty out there shit.
I mean, hell, if we're continuing the cyborgs, we could even include Cyber Hitler from the Wolfenstein series.
Oh my gosh! I will check my email right now. You bet.
Jodie Whittaker only has one expression. What are you talking about, Cinnabon? it's that that DreamWorks expression that all their characters use.
And to be fair, I still haven't watched anything of Doctor Who since Capaldi left, so
shit.
I have no opinion when it comes to Jodie Whittaker. I'm not going to say she's good. I'm not going to say she's bad. I don't care what anyone else says. I will come up with my own opinions when I actually watch it. But yeah, I think this will work for now. And what's even good about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is I recently gave my youngest daughter a copy of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and hopefully after her sister, brother, and mom are moving to another location, and she said she's going to try to start reading it after they move. So maybe on that week I'll actually bring her up so she can, not play, but she could be my co-host that day.
I'm looking at my email, Yvette, and I do not see anything from you. Not even in my spam folder. So yay, board is made.
That is one franchise that they've never. The one thing that they haven't milked yet is $6 Million Man. I mean, they've given us 2 RoboCop attempts or films, and then
I just now realized I was muted this entire time.
Yes.
Wahoo, is this the image you were talking about?
Sorry, I'm on my email right now. Sorry. No. Let me find the image for you. Yeah, I forgot Twitter is slow on my computer right now. Oh, hey, everybody by the Canadian border, you might get a chance to see some auroras on the 19th.
Is that the solar storm you're talking about?
Yep.
So was it a CME or what?
It was a eruption.
Yeah, but was it a CME? Coronal
No.
mass ejection?
No. It was basically a huge solar storm.
You're gonna have to explain. Maybe I'm just dense. What's the difference between a solar storm versus a broken solar flare or a CME?
A solar storm is high radiation and solar winds. It's an unusual event that rarely happens.
Because I know both of those other two things also can cause auroras, especially if they're,
Here, look at
not
this.
necessarily tethered to the sun. Break free
Solar
of the
storm can cause auroras.
Here, look at this animation, okay? Yeah, I'll put it in the private chat. You can pull it up while I look at the other picture. Yeah, she's got a good animation. Come on. Okay. Find a picture of Jupiter.
Excuse me, sorry.
No excuse for you.
Blood in my ass. All right.
Here it is. If you want some more information, here's an extra link.
Is that supposed to be the smiley face on Jupiter you're talking about?
Yeah, turn the picture upside down. I can't invert it right now, but
Like, I can't do it right now, but I see what you're talking about. The eyes and yeah.
It's not as bad as Pluto on Pluto.
Here's one eye, another eye, the nose, and the smiley face. And this little toupee. No, I haven't changed my email. Let me open up my email again. Hang on, I gotta stop sharing this. Too many tabs. Let me try to do this again. Shit, wrong tab. Damn it.
Oh man, I just took a sip of coffee and it went down the wrong pipe.
Ooh. Pulled an OBG.
I don't want to watch baseball right now. It's too early for the game.
He usually has to pay me for that.
Like that Archer promo. I didn't say start slacking off. I got your email. Yes, got it. Now that thing open up.
All right, I got to Geloja real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. Oh, that picture. That is a nice picture. And when he gets back, he can show the screen. Thank you, Yvette. That's not the one I haven't seen yet, but thank you. Oh, ow, ow, ow. He cannot let you win because he went to a loja. And it's not a puppetry loja because he didn't take us with us. Glad he didn't. And since LVG is not saying a word, I don't know why. I don't know how I'm getting a word in.
You want me to start talking? Huh? What do you want to talk about? Huh?
It's about that time I told you to shut up when you were choking. that was pretty bad.
I'm sorry. I got so many of those that I can't keep track. Which one?
When you were choking on something like some water or whatever. I'm like, shut up. We're trying to watch a movie. And I wasn't coughing. I was choking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I was actually choking. Okay, yeah. So, funny story, guys. Darren doesn't give a shit if a man chokes to death on as long as you do it quietly, you're fine.
That's why I hit mute when I start to cough.
I'm sitting here and he thinks I'm coughing and I'm literally can't breathe. Like, I don't remember what it was. Like, I remember it happening. I just don't remember what I did. But I was literally like, you cough so hard, you choke so hard, you're crying instantly. That kind of shit.
Hey, just jumped on. Can you share that picture?
I'm sharing it right now.
Oh, cool.
LDG's backstage is kind of like the phlegm show because when you come in, he's constantly moving phlegm around because he won't mute his mic whenever he hawks up a loogie or snorks.
Listen, I mute the mic so many times it's not even funny when I'm coughing.
So, although this is a riveting conversation, I just thought everyone
riveting
might like
conversation.
Yes, riveting. I thought everyone might like to see Jupiter viewed from its arse. There you go.
The Uranus of Jupiter?
That's riveting. Jupiter.
That's the center anus of Jupiter.
Yes.
Uranus of Jupiter.
Arse. Jupiter's arse. And it's a beautiful picture. Right.
I could zoom in on Jupiter's arse for you. See?
And I will leave you boys
Jupiter's
to
ass.
it. I just thought you'd like to see it.
It's just the South Pole. It's not really its ass.
Yeah,
that's
nice
the ass in my dictionary.
Me. Yeah. Right. I'll leave you to it. Carry on with your
are you basically saying that Earth's ass is frozen?
Yes.
Doesn't have an
It's either frozen or bleached. Naturally bleached.
Cyclones, man. Damn.
Oh yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say, Jodie's only expression was named by the Who community in the very first episode as Scrunch Face.
Yeah.
Scrunch face.
There you go.
Right.
I'll leave you to it. Well, I'm listening.
Yeah, my big concern right now, if I watch that series, is because I don't seem to hate everything as much as everyone else, or at least I hate stuff for different reasons than
That's
other
a
people.
problem.
That
a card.
I'll be like,
sorry, I thought I was muted. Shit.
Everything about
I actually, to be perfectly frank with you,
are you choking? Because you know you're not.
I would be surprised if you actually hate it. You probably hate it. I really do. Anyway.
Well, as I said, I'm weird because I hate things for different reasons than other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
these are obvious.
Mike's.
These are obvious things you'd hate, like having morality shit shoved down your throat without your consent, or something rammed up your bum without your consent. You know, that sort of level of shit.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like I hate the Riker character on TNG, but I don't hate him for reasons people tend to think.
Oh no, we lost Yvette again.
Yeah, it's just gonna pop out.
Okay, I didn't hear her. Yeah, Mrs. Vile's still watching TNG on her own. Mm-hmm. And she just watched the episode where there's the Yuta or whatever her name is character, the chick who's immortal or forever young with a virus that she's going around killing people.
Yeah.
And Riker falls in love with her.
Of course. Yeah.
And she goes, "Yeah, of course Riker had to fall in love with her because he's Riker."
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
How the hell did that fall? Huh. I kind of fell.
It's getting to the point, that you can't, that if you make up your own name for a character or you criticize a fictional character, people get upset. And it's like, it's a fictional character. I'm not talking about the actor.
I'm sorry. As long as your criticisms are warranted, like
Yeah.
when people are like dissing the new Ms. Marvel, she's like, "Oh, she's a Muslim replacing a white woman." I'm like, no, that's not something you should be upset about. You should be upset about if the character is written poorly.
So now you dictate what we should be upset about. Okay,
yes,
that sounds right.
One is bigoted, the other one isn't.
Yeah, the whole idea of replacing existing characters who happen to be white with ones who are not, or something, something else, is one that's been debated a lot, and it's like, it's one of the reasons why young Ripa, and he's has raised over $1 million now with his Ripaverse Indiegogo campaign, because he's creating he's a big proponent of just creating new characters that are cool. Don't replace other characters that people like with ones that aren't.
Have literally been replacing characters for decades.
Right, and it's been an age-old debate, and they've kept on doing it, and the comic book sales have gone down; they haven't gone up. So
I would disagree, especially one of the things I didn't like it when they brought the characters back, but like the Blue Beetle, where it was a legacy character where one dies and then he's replaced, and then he dies and then he's replaced. Yeah. That, in my book, as long as you keep them dead so their legacy stands firm, that is a good idea, and that's something I like. But even with the fact that they had different powers, they were just,
they just
the Blue
basically
Beetle.
had this. Yeah, they basically had the same name and beetle motif, but totally different sets of abilities and things. Yeah. Very different characters. Yeah, but it's like then having Ted Kord, for example. Hand the keys over to his beetle machine, his flying beetle machine, and the costuming to somebody else. That didn't happen. They created a new character from scratch, just like they did with Ted Kord. But we're not really referring to those types of replacements. We're talking about like when they replaced the Atom with a guy who, was basically just Korean, and that was his only real difference. I mean, in costume, he looked exactly the same as the old Atom. He just was a Korean guy now, or things of that nature.
Well, like, did you have an issue when Amadeus Cho became the Hulk for a while?
Well, no, because he didn't fully replace the Hulk, and you always knew that the original would come back eventually. It was a temporary thing. They did that with Batman, for example, when Bane broke his back. Yeah, the Jean Paul Valley character stepped in. Yeah. And everybody knew they're not gonna permanently replace the Bruce Wayne Batman. They just aren't going to do that. So you fans knew that. Okay, for a while we're going to get this other take, and then what's probably going to happen is the old Batman's going to come back, and he's going to have to fight this guy for the title, and that's what people were really sort of tuning in for. Amadeus Cho was not a great character in my opinion, but as a temporary stand-in for the Hulk, it's fine. I mean,
well, like, I just remember reading a blog post about it. This guy was incredibly upset with Amadeus Cho because he's basically Asian Tony Stark with the powers of Hulk. And it's like he's replacing two white characters with a Chinese character, and that was the only real gripe the guy had. And I'm like, well,
it wouldn't have mattered to me if he was also a Caucasian like the other two guys. His whole attitude was goofy, but I mean, because his Hulk wasn't called the Incredible Hulk, it was called the Totally Awesome Hulk, and that was literally what they called the comic. And
that kind of makes sense considering Amadeus Cho was kind of a '90s kid.
Yeah, he was kind of a dated younger person. But I mean, yeah, it's there's been examples of them doing the unnecessary race change, and there's examples of it being done in a better way where it's just as entertaining. But I mean, it's when it doesn't work that we get upset, not when it does work. But then you got people. You do have people though who will be upset with it, no matter regardless of whether it works or not, because they just don't want that. And personal preference is fine.
Yeah. Pissed me off for
what about the Shazam kids,
guys? Jessica Cruz and what's his name? I can't remember offhand. Became Green Lanterns. I was not upset that they introduced a Muslim and a Hispanic Green Lantern. That did not bug me at all.
Green Lantern is a you talk about legacy heroes. That's the biggest one of them all because there's 3,600 of them at any given time of all different alien shapes and sizes. Not all of them, are. I mean, yeah.
What upset me about having two more human Green Lanterns, because now we've got like 10 human Green Lanterns,
right?
And it's like, no, we don't need. If it's going to be a whole galactic community, let's have some alien ones. Let's bring those in, explore. Explore the same things you want to explore, but bring them in as an allegory of an alien. Yeah. When you have 10 human Green Lanterns, it kind of like, well, it's an aliens club, but most of them are human.
Yeah, it's because obviously
that was actually made fun of in one of the cartoons where Kilowog was explaining it to one of the female ones. The Mcu is like, and for some odd reason, we got a lot of humans there. He's kind of making fun of that little trope,
right? Yeah,
especially when you talk about an organization that has existed for millennia, and in the last 50 years, 10% of their core is now human.
Well, they kind of had an attitude towards humanity, the same kind of attitude that they had on Star Trek Enterprise, where the Vulcans didn't understand humans, and because they seemed to have a mixture of the characteristics of all the other races, and they kind of have that attitude over there with the Green Lanterns. It's like, but the real reason is, of course, that you could never replace the main Green Lantern with somebody who wasn't a human being. I mean, I think it would be interesting, but but
if you're going to kill off the character, let the character freaking stay dead. That's one of the things I hate most about modern comics is they keep bringing back characters, and I let them.
Guy Gardner, come on.
The American people love comebacks, and that's the idea of the hero being resurrected. I mean, that's Jesus Christ. I mean, that's
but
like that.
To me, that's an annoying trope when it's every single time in every single comic book.
You're right. I mean, there are comics that don't do that, like Judge Dredd, for example. Judge Dredd is pretty much dead now, and his clone has replaced him, Joe Dredd. So, which is physically a younger version of himself, but he's a little bit different. That there are comics that don't do that. Usually they're indies, not rather than the two big corporate comics companies. But
But it's
I hear you. I mean, there's
did are freaking Jonathan Kent and not even always him and Uncle Ben.
Yeah, there are certain tropes in modern superhero comics that the people just have to accept in order to accept the genre. I mean, it's kind of like people pissing and moaning about there being guns in westerns. What else are they going to use?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you're gonna have sometimes other things other than guns, but the primary weapon that people used to defend their ranches and stuff was the rifle or the pistol. So
it makes sense within the context of the show or in the genre. Like one of the things, as I said, Fallout's one of my favorite series of all time.
Right.
And I actually had a guy talk because as we've discussed, I'm kind of anti-gun in some ways. At least I'm pro-gun control. But he was like, well, then how do you like the Fallout series where everybody walks around armed? I'm like, Well, in the Fallout series context, you're attacked by 12-foot lizard creatures on a regular basis. You're attacked by fire-breathing ants and geckos, and within the context of the show, in the franchise, it makes sense for everyone to walk around armed. Plus, they actually show at times there are people within cities that will still attack you with those guns, so it is dangerous.
Right.
But
it's the old West.
When I go to frickin' Vaughn's and I see a guy carrying 6 guns on him to buy fucking milk, it's a little bit extensive when you're not going to need 6 guns to buy milk in this country.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take off because I need to eat. I'm hungry.
All right. Anyone else wants to come up?
Later, weirdos.
Later, Lahu. Take it easy, man.
I want to see a Western without horses because it's cruelty to animals.
Right. Yeah. Or a Western without cowboy hats or something. I mean, it's kind of like when USA Today. I remember USA Today did a review of Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire one, and the guy just shit on it, and he shit on it for everything having to do with the superhero genre.
But it's when it's with the context of the universe being presented, then it makes sense.
Right.
I mean, that I don't have an issue with. But there's a big, I think a lot of people don't get the difference between fantasy and fiction versus real life.
Yeah. I mean, it's like getting upset, when you're watching a fantasy film or something or a show and there's dragons in it, or there's any form of magic, or, it's like that's the genre, this is how it works. And, there are some people who don't like genre fiction, but what they really mean is they don't like certain genres. I had an author named Percival Everett. I went to a writer's workshop that was taught by him, and he came out and said that he didn't like genre fiction at all, but he wrote genre fiction. He wrote about guys on ranches, basically, the neo-Western type things. And he didn't like science fiction. What he really meant was he didn't like science fiction and horror, which was everybody wanted to get in on at that point when I went. And I told him, look, I mean, you're not going to avoid a genre. You can have something that blends genres. A great example of that is the film Aliens, the sequel. It's both a war movie and a horror movie.
I would say it was a sci-fi movie and a war movie. The first one was a horror movie and a sci-fi movie.
Well, right. I mean, but science fiction doesn't always lend itself to certain plot devices and things the way a horror film will or a war film will. A lot of it has to do with a lot of science fiction stories are called that merely because of the setting or the technology used and things like that, or the era that it takes place in. There's a lot of overlap in all lowercase fantasy genres. All right.
Sure, no one else wants to come up? I mean, before we had too many people, now we got 3.
It's one of them days.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's because I started too late. And by started too late, it's all LDG's fault.
It is my fault. It is my fault. We were all here. We're all looking for you in the backstage. Where's Vile's mic? I don't see his freaking record. I don't see his video posting. And then finally I saw you pop it up and I'm like, wow, he's a little bit late. Then I read the title and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get negative 500 points for this for some reason. Somehow I'm going to get blamed for it. So. That's the way it works. Exactly.
What are you doing?
Mundo.
I'll volunteer.
You volunteer as tribute?
I'll volunteer to come up. Yeah.
Well, if we want to go back a little bit, because Darren mentioned zombie movies, has anyone here seen a zombie movie called Life After Beth?
Never heard of it.
Sounds like a comedy.
It was kind of a comedy, very little horror aspect, but basically, I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a different take on the zombie genre.
What year was it?
A zombie love story. And
what year?
Sorry?
What year did it come out?
I think it came out in 2015, somewhere around there. But I only recently watched it, and it's got a pretty decent cast. John C. Reilly's in it. The guy that played the husband in Mad About You, I can't remember his name offhand.
Paul Reiser.
Paul Reiser.
Yes. Molly Shannon. The kid who played Harry Osborn in Amazing Spider-Man 2. So it had a pretty decent cast.
You know the names of no actors.
I know the names of certain actors, but some of them it's
with
like,
that.
I'm making fun with you. It's fine.
Some of them it's like when I'm on the spot, I can't remember. That's why I don't play my own game. Hold on. Okay, it was a 2014 film.
Oh Lord, why do they send me a message right now?
Okay, his name is Dane DeHaan. But it's got Aubrey Plaza in it, Anna Kendrick,
Aubrey Plaza,
Rob Delaney, Cheryl Hines. I mean, it's got, as I said, a very decent cast. And basically, this guy's girlfriend dies and comes back as a zombie, but she comes back as fairly normal and slowly becomes more of a Romano-esque zombie as the story progresses. And he's got to deal with the fact, that the person he loved and actually broke his heart right before she died, is back. And,
Well, when you say zombie, you mean an undead, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I saw like a trailer for that.
Progresses, she becomes more and more like a Romero.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I got a bubble in my throat when I was trying to say that.
It's fine.
So it was, it was not scary, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Fido. Have you guys ever seen that one?
Which one?
What is it called?
Fido.
I've never heard of that one either.
It's a zombie comedy movie where basically they adopt a zombie as a surrogate father/husband figure, and they named the zombie Fido after the dog.
Well, there was a movie that came out years ago that was sort of the opposite of what you were talking about. I think it was called My Boyfriend's Back or something, and it was My Boyfriend's Back in 1993, where the girl's boyfriend became a undead.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he was on they were cheerleaders, and her boyfriend was on the football team or fraternity or something.
Something, yeah.
Damn, yes, I had that movie on my channel when I had it. Shit, I forgot the damn name of it. And that cop's like, well, the good news, your dates are here. The bad news, they're dead. I forgot the name of that movie. Yeah, I remember that. Or the one, I don't know if that's the same movie, but there was an 80s one where they were trying to join a fraternity, these two geeky guys, and the fraternity told them to go steal a cadaver from the science department, and somehow they got infected or something, or let one of them loose or something like that. I don't know.
The weird thing about zombies is, of course, prior to Night of the Living Dead, when you said the word zombie, what it meant was somebody in a trance, right? You know, and they started calling these undead, cadaver, the undead zombies, and it kind of muddled the definition of the word. But I mean, it's interesting because we don't get like authentic old school zombies anymore, like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or something like that. We get, you say zombie, and now even they have movies where they're not really technically undead. They're just like, rabid humans. The 28 Days Later films, they weren't really undead. They were just at a
similarly named substitute.
Right.
That's the trope.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, who started the fast zombies? I know,
8 days later.
Yeah, 28 Days Later.
The fast movers.
I mean, there was some aspects of it in some of the
Z Nation, not Z Nation. I'm sorry.
But it was
what
usually
was the Z
like
one?
most of the
Zombie.
zombies were shamblers, and some of them were fast. But in 28 Days Later, all of them were fast, and then until they wore away until they were too weak.
Yeah. And what's interesting is once we started calling the undead zombies, we had to figure out a name for what we used to call zombies, and now they call them somnambulists, which is basically another term for sleepwalker, and that's how things happen. It's kind of like when we started calling those porpoises, dolphins. We had to figure out another name for the fish that used to be called a dolphin. So, we switched to mahi and dolphin fish. And
World War Z. That's what it was. That's when zombies got ridiculously fast and ridiculously crazy.
No, Darren is right. It was 28 Days Later.
Yeah, in terms of movies,
days. Did they do zombie walls on 28 Days Later?
That was funny. Like they was like bunch of ants trying to climb a wall.
Yeah, like an ants climbing up the wall. That wasn't that World War Z?
We're talking about speed.
So you're talking about what?
But he was talking about how ridiculously crazy it was.
You're talking about how crazy zombies gotten, and I think I remember World War Z was the first movie where zombies escaped from this reality of they're just fucking crazy demons now running across the map. 28 Days Later, I would say, is a little bit more realistic.
Here's the timeline.
Even though they were fast.
Here's the timeline. 28 Days Later, the movie came out in 2002. World War Z, the book by Max Brooks, upon which the movie was based, came out in 2006. So it was 28 Days Later that first gave us the idea of the zombie that could actually move as fast, if not faster, than you.
Well, it could run realistically. I would say as realistic as you can get talking about the sci-fi genre to begin with. World War Z broke that realistic. Like 28 Days Later still felt real. Like, okay, I could see a zombie doing that. But World War Z was like, what the fuck?
When I saw them all piling up the wall, I'm like, that's just stupid.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't matter. It didn't matter how destroyed they were. Like, it didn't matter if they were a fresh zombie or your limbs are hanging by a fucking joint and you're still like going nuts like anthill on fire. Yeah.
Who wrote World War Z?
Who?
Michael
Said earlier,
Crichton.
Max
His name is Max Brooks. He's the son of Mel Brooks, the guy who made Blazing Saddles and Spaceball. Yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah, that's him.
Well,
Now
I
I
Am
could
Legend
see.
sort of has like I don't know if you would consider them zombies, but those guys were fast.
Mhm.
Which movie?
I Am Legend, the
Well,
monsters
okay.
in there.
I have an argument about that one, and it's only because in the books they were supposed to be more vampires than zombies.
Right, right.
It was
in
the Will Smith movie that basically turned them into zombies, and that was kind of dumb.
Yeah, it was one of the big criticisms of the film was that in the original novel by Richard Matheson, they were vampires. I mean, that's.
I remember. I don't remember what book it was called, but I remember. This is probably back in the 90s. I read a book where the zombie apocalypse happened, and a group were trying to get away, and they picked up some stragglers on the way, and these zombies were fast. I don't know, but I know it was a father and a daughter that were like the main characters, and then like others kind of like joined the group. Damn it, I forgot. It was so long ago, but I can't remember. But I know it didn't have a good ending to it. That's what surprised me, is because they ended up in a sewer and they got trapped or something, and they ended up like being trapped, and the father decided, I mean, his daughter was with him, and the father decided to like blow them all selves up to get rid of the zombies or something, because they were going to be eaten anyway. It didn't have a good ending yet. I forgot what it was called.
I don't know.
They totally. I mean, they really changed the monster in I Am Legend, the movie. The Omega Man, which was the first, adaptation of I Am Legend, was a lot more accurate. He was using garlic and crosses and crucifix for protection against those creatures. So, I mean, they were definitely a supernatural element, whereas I Am Legend sort of tried to create the truth behind the myth sort of idea, where it was they scienced it up and made it a disease. But yeah,
and vampires is another one of those ones that's kind of weird how within the context of each universe it can be a supernatural thing or it could be a virus, and it kind of rolls over with zombies a little bit with that. And
that's why I like The Strain. The Strain was awesome because they mixed zombies and vampires together, and the cause was organic. Like the cause wasn't some virus, or the cause wasn't some, it was literally organic. Like this came from nature, this life form that, because it basically was like these little worms.
I have to correct myself here. Omega Man wasn't the first adaptation of I Am Legend. The first one was actually a Vincent Price movie called The Last Man on Earth. But
I was going to say, because I know there's a Vincent Price one, but I couldn't remember the name of it. I just know it wasn't I Am Legend.
Yeah.
And sorry to go back a little bit, just because I thought it would be funny to look him up on Wikipedia. Max Brooks. He has had a very interesting writing career.
Yeah. He's got this Sasquatch book that came out like about a year and a half ago that I've got here that I haven't.
Yeah, Devolution. But his first three books are Zombies, Zombies, and Zombies. And then he's got 2 Minecraft books. And then Sasquatch. To me, that's kind of a weird combination of writing.
Yeah, he writes what he wants. I mean, he can. And he comes from a relatively wealthy family, being the son of Mel Brooks and Bancroft.
Yeah.
So,
I remember back same time period when I was incarcerated. There's nothing but to read, but I read this really good book about vampires. It was called Vampire Winter. And what had happened was a nuclear war broke out, and it caused a nuclear winter. And vampires existed at that period, and there was this one vampire guy was immune to the radiation. And since pretty much everybody was dead except for like a few people like huddled in this house, he made an agreement with these people. You know, he was like he had morals, you know. And he's like, you know, hey, just let me feed off you. You know, not to kill you, but to keep me alive. And in return, you get to stay in the bunker away from the radiation, and I can go out and get you supplies and get food. So it was like you know, they helped one another. It was a crazy book. It was a really good book, though. So they would, like, you know, voluntarily let them feed off their arm, you know, just to give them a little blood. And then he was immune to the radiation and the fallout, so he would go out and like scavenge for them and get what they want. And so it was like a symbiotic relationship. It was a pretty good book.
I tried to look it up, but it's not coming up for me. Maybe
Vampire Winter.
Title is correct.
Vampire Winter.
Yeah, it's not coming up. Every time there we go. By Lois Triton or Tilton.
I forgot. It was in the 90s, but it was a really good book. Does it give a description, like a prologue or whatever, like what's about?
I'm trying to find it.
It'll probably explain it better than I can.
The reviews do. Apparently, the excerpt is like the description is just an excerpt.
Oh.
So yeah, the reviews actually kind of give away exactly what you just said. But
yeah,
another good example of this whole zombie / vampire thing. Have you guys ever read the Vampire Hunter D books?
No.
Not the 2 movies, but the books.
No. The anime.
Because in that, if you're bitten by a vampire but not meant to be turned, that's when you turn into a zombie.
Oh, that's weird.
They kind of combine the two. So a vampire can create more zombies, or you can create more vampires, and it's up to the person doing the biting.
So,
is it like a safety on his fang?
Well, it's in most of the original, like, modern vampire material, like Bram Stoker's Dracula, you have to consume blood in order to actually turn into a vampire. Getting bit gives you, like, you know, some zombie-like characteristics, like, you know, like Lucy Westerna in the Dracula novel. She keeps getting bit and has, you know, all kinds of problems as a result of this. But then, you know, she ends up getting killed and then comes back and feeds, and that's what sort of turns her into a vampire. It's weird. But, you know, Hollywood and the entertainment industry like to put their own spin on everything. I mean, you know.
Well, in the Vampire Hunter D, and remember, that's written by a Japanese guy originally for a Japanese audience.
Right.
They have it so that in that series, Dracula was a real person, and he was kind of like a good guy, a halfway for someone who wanted to keep humanity alive and, you know, respected, and it was his other vampires that turned on him so they could use humanity as cattle.
Right. Yeah, one of the more interesting takes on Dracula that I saw several years ago now was Dracula Untold, and that was it was actually Universal's first attempt to create a shared universe for all their monsters before the Mummy and what's his face from Secret Hideout, Alex Kurtzman. But it was interesting because it was how, you know, Vlad Tepes' Dracul, the Transylvanian, you know, prince, ended up, you know, becoming a vampire out of sheer desperation to fight off the Turks and keep them from taking over his people and his lands. It was an interesting take on it, and yeah, I was I was impressed with it. So,
a book, like a movie that like totally well, there was a book made, and when they tried to make the movie totally just like ruined the whole thing, and that was Michael Crichton's Andromeda Strain. The book was like no, I take that back. Phantoms, Michael Crichton's Phantoms. The book was like scary as hell, but when they made the movie, it was like a joke. It didn't do it justice. Andromeda Strain was the one where like they had this virus.
I
that
just
would,
watched that one.
Yeah, that virus that brought back people
Yeah.
from the dead. But Phantoms was like a really spooky book, but when they made it into a movie, it was just they totally messed it up.
Sorry,
I read a lot of good
Are you
books.
sure it was Michael Crichton who wrote that?
No, I'm not sure, but the book it was called Phantoms.
I mean, because I thought I read everything by Michael Crichton. I'm like, I've never heard of that, so I'm looking it up.
Look it up. Look, Phantoms.
well, Phantoms was also a story by Dean Koontz.
Yes, I knew it was a famous writer. I don't know. I might have got
Ben
Michael
Affleck.
Crichton.
Yeah, Ben Affleck was in a movie that was adapted from that book. I think that.
Okay, I knew it was a famous author. Either Michael Crichton or Dean Koontz, but it was a famous author.
Dean Koontz has an interesting career. He came out with a book every other year that Stephen King didn't. He kind of like he wrote off on his coattails a little bit there. King had made the horror genre a big deal in the late 70s into the 80s in terms of books, and so but he could only crank out one book a year, and so or one book every 2 years, and so Koontz would come out with the in between books, and that's how he got his fan following. People who were hungry for more would read a Koontz book to tide them over for the next King book.
Stephen King needs to stay away from the director's chair.
Well,
and I plead my case. Watch The Langoliers.
Well, hold on. He did not direct
Maximum
Langoliers. The only
Overdrive.
thing he directed was Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
The Langoliers too, and the CGI on that was just awful.
I'm gonna look it up because I don't think he directed that. I think he only directed.
Or he might have been like what do you call it, advisor or something. I know he was part of it.
He was either a producer or a consultant. That's
Yeah, he was something with the movie. I'm not sure if he was director.
He did not direct The Langoliers. He only directed Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
I like Maximum Overdrive.
And what's weird was later they remade Maximum Overdrive under the original short story title Trucks. But it was a Emilio Estevez movie with Amanda Pays, and I think they hired AC/DC to write some songs for it. And Who Made Who, I think, was the big song that came out of that movie.
Sorry, The Langoliers was, let's see, does it say? No. Oh, directed by, I'm guessing not Spider-Man, but he was directed by Tom Holland.
Right. There is a Tom Holland director. He also directed Fright Night, one of my favorite vampire movies.
Oh yes, I love Fright Night.
Yeah. He was, and it was a made-for-TV miniseries, I believe. The Langoliers. Yeah, Tom Holland, same Tom Holland who did Fright Night, and also Child's Play, another favorite of mine. I mean, talk about your quintessential killer doll movie,
Well, even Stephen King, when he didn't like the Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, he made his own version, which it sucked. His version sucked.
It was
it was true. It was
more
true to the story, but I don't know. He just make it. It's just really bad. You know.
See, I will tell you that I actually enjoy the made for TV Shining a lot, and I think there were a lot of moments that were taken directly from that book that were sort of restored, in my opinion. The scene with the woman in the bathtub, for example, that was some that was some great stuff, and they didn't really get to the hedge animals as much as I thought they would, but the big thing that King didn't like was that Kubrick didn't think it. He didn't want to do a ghost story. And that's what The Shining was. It was a ghost story. He made it more of a man going insane kind of story. And
in all honesty, I think it worked that way better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, Kubrick's going to film it the way he wants to film it, and and basically it was The Shining in name only, for the most part.
Well, I also heard Stephen King got mad because something about the Volkswagen Beetle was like yellow in the movie and it was supposed to be red, and he got all pissed off about that.
Yeah. But when he was younger, he used to get upset about that stuff, and as he got older, he got much better about that.
And actually, I think it was in Pet Sematary because Stanley Kubrick, it was kind of a joke, and I think in Pet Sematary or something. There's a scene where like they pass a car wreck and there's a semi that like crushed a Volkswagen Beetle, and it was like a red they kind of like did a FU to Stephen King or something. I don't know. It was
interesting.
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, when it was important for them to get stuff like that important. I mean, for example, Christine, right? It's a 1955 red Plymouth Fury. Okay. They made it in the movie a 1955 red Plymouth Fury. They didn't go with a Pinto or a Datsun or something, and so he's probably coming off of the heels of that, where these guys got the car precisely right, and then he thinks that the car has got to be right somewhere else too. I mean, again, there's certain battles, and I've talked to other authors about this when Hollywood makes a movie, and some are really cool about it. They're like, fine. They look at it like advertising for their book. They don't really look at it like this other group of people are changing their story. But the King that was one of the things that King got over eventually in the 90s. He's like, my book is still on the shelf. The people who are curious to find out what the story really was about can
what was that book?
I enjoy Stephen King movies based on his books more than I enjoy his books because I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of his writing. Not his writing style. That's fine. It's more of he likes to pull crap out of his ass as a Deus Ex Machina, essentially, almost every book, and it's just annoying as all hell.
Yeah,
when it's like,
yeah,
you're gonna have a fourth or third act magic that solve the problem.
Some of his endings are really terrible compared to the cinematic endings, but sometimes it's the reverse too. I mean, I much preferred his ending to The Mist over the movie version of the ending of The Mist. That's one example, but I mean, what was the?
There was one really bad Stephen King book I remember that was really bad called something Darkness or something. But what it was about was like this guy was supposed to have a twin brother.
Oh, but yeah, that was The Dark Half. Yeah.
The Dark Half, that's right. That book sucked. Yeah.
Well, it was all based off of his experiences or inspired by his experiences as a writing under the pen name Richard Bachman. And they had even found an actor to pose for the picture of Richard Bachman in the back of every book. A lot of people didn't know that Richard Bachman was Stephen King writing, and the whole idea was that King couldn't. His agent said, "Look, you can't come out." King was writing like 2 or 3 books a year in some cases, but you only want to release one per year because otherwise you'll dilute your brand. And he said, "Well, why don't we release them under the name of a different author, and so that people don't know it's me?" And then eventually people figured it out because he put hints in various books and things, and so he had this idea, crazy, what if the pen name came to life, and it was an interesting premise. I don't know that he executed it well. I've said this before. My favorite King books are the ones that he wrote early in his career when he was on these cocaine fueled benders. Because as soon as he stopped doing drugs, unfortunately his books
I think
started getting a little more mundane.
Wasn't Christine? He said that he don't even remember, or
No,
it's
that
either
was
Christine.
Joe. That's one of the things that I always hated about him was in an interview. I can't remember what it was, like one of those daytime talk shows at the time. He was being interviewed and he was like, "Yeah, I'm such a great author that when I'm high on cocaine, I can write a bestseller in a single day because I'm such a great author and not even remember it the next day."
Yeah, he said he don't even remember writing that whole thing.
Yeah.
That interview is one of the reasons I started hating him, was because he was just so full of himself.
Right.
And so fucking arrogant that I'm like, no, I'm sorry. You've just lost. I've lost all respect for you as a human being.
King got taken down a peg when that guy hit him with his truck, and he had to go through all kinds of physical therapy and stuff. So I mean, if you believe in karma, or the trials, I guess what Christians would call it, then he certainly had some after that, and maybe that was a result of his arrogance. But he hasn't had a great last 25 years, at least physically. But
I mean, he's got a real twisted mind. I was like back in the late '90s. I was like on a Stephen King book kick. Like, I worked as a meat cutter, and the book aisle was like right in front of my department. And every time a new Stephen King book would come out, I would get it. So I was like on a Stephen King book bender for like a while, and some of the stuff, I mean, you had to have a really twisted mind to come up with some of the stuff I read. His mind is, I hate to be in that guy's head.
Yeah, he talks about that.
I would only hate to be in his mind because, as I said, his solution to almost every problem is last minute magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
his ending
I don't hate his books as much as we introduced that type of stuff far earlier on in the books, but it's like every single time it's the third act is, last minute magic spell or last minute magic powers.
Yeah, the Dark Tower series, I read the first two books and I stopped reading because I'm like, okay, he's never going to be able to top this. He's never going to be able to end this story satisfactorily. And when it finally came out, people who had read it told me that it was a terrible ending. And it was kind of a cop out ending to a degree.
Sorry, it's like he's great at coming up with a premise, but that he's never, like you said earlier, he's not good at writing endings.
No. But his best strength, in my opinion, is getting you inside a small town. He's actually created a subgenre within horror where horror stories that take place in small towns.
It's always Maine or something.
Well, usually it's obviously Castle Rock, but then there's other. It's usually a small town in Maine. Parker's Mills, was the setting for Cycle of the Werewolf, for example, and he likes those small towns. He doesn't really like setting stories in big cities and things like that. And I think that's
that, like, even most slasher movies take place in small secluded areas, and it's because the idea of being cut off from society is part of the fear.
Right.
And another thing Mike could have brought up as a point about being arrogant is like, I don't know how many movies, but he's always got to make a cameo in his movies.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, that I don't have a problem with. I mean, freaking
Alfred Hitchcock did the same
yeah,
thing.
Hitchcock.
Yeah. Stan Lee's got to be somewhere in a Marvel movie all the time too.
And again, that kind of stuff I don't have a problem with.
Stan Lee's family actually sold his likeness to Disney Marvel now, so that Stan Lee can continue to make appearances in Marvel films.
Didn't know that.
And
now,
again,
whether
I
it's
don't have a problem with that.
but whether it's going to be just pictures of him, or they're actually going to try to do a CG, model of Stan Lee, who knows? But some people really don't like that.
Admiral Tarkin thing or Moff Tarkin thing, I'll be happy with it. Keep it photos or something in the background. Don't have someone else like try to do the voice and no.
Yeah. Well, they kind of did that
guys. I got to rock and roll. Got to get ready for Twilight Zone. But thanks for having me, Val.
In a couple minutes anyway.
No worries.
All right, I guess I'm gonna run too. I got a stream to be at.
All right, in that case, then I'll just go ahead and end the stream. So,
you and I can't hold a show. What the hell? All right, that's fine.
There's only 3 people watching, and I'm wondering if it's the 3 people on the show.
It could be. Yeah, it's probably it. All right, thanks for having me, Val.
Later, man. Later, LG.
Later, guys.